As the heavy rains persist, the Vaal Dam has reached a concerning capacity. On Saturday, the capacity was at over 120%. The Department of Water and Sanitation opening another sluice gate as water levels continue to rise. Let's get more details now in an update. We speak to David Mahlobo, the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, for the very latest. Deputy Minister, thank you so much for your time. And let's start with the very latest around the capacity at the Vaal Dam.
Currently, our capacity in the Vaal Dam, it's more than 100%. It stands at 118%. But in terms of the design from an engineering point, because it doesn't have a spillway, we open sluice gates that allows the water to come out. And if it is at 100%, we still have an ability of a flood absorption range of 26%. But that dam, because it's so big, when we release the water, it goes down to the northwest, Bloem Hof, Free State, then it ultimately impacts in the Northern Cape. And what we can say now is that there's been too much rain, like we are saying, there's too much water flowing in. Per second, we're actually having more than 1,587 cubic millimeters per second, which is a lot of water that is coming in. And as we stand now, we've opened 10 gates as of this morning, and more than 1,801 cubic meters are being released. But then what happens is that when the water goes through the Vaal Barrage that is managed by Rainwater, there are a number of small rivers that are coming in the waterways, that are actually looking at causing problems like your Klipspruit. By the time it arrives in Bloem Hof, this morning at Bloem Hof, we're at about 3,600 cubic meters per second. Then, therefore, even at the Bloem Hof, we had no choice but to open additional sluice gates there. Already 7 sluice gates have been opened, and it has the biggest impact on surrounding communities, including infrastructure. We're working with the National Sea Rescue Institute and the police and all our disaster management centers to say our caution that was done by Minister Majodina when we visited the Vaal Dam on the 9th of April, and when she went also to the Bloem Hof on the 11th of April. We want people to cooperate with us, but there are those who are being reluctant. And if they are reluctant, it has very devastating impact in terms of their own livelihoods, including their own health.
And I was gonna ask about that, because you do have some people who understand why you have to do this, but others are saying this is disastrous and they simply aren't going to be leaving their homes. They simply aren't going to heed this call for caution. How then do you begin to convince such individuals?
We'll have to, we are engaging with them through the number of structures that are there. There is a lot of issues of lawlessness we need to deal with in our country, wherein people, they actually go to the river banks, which we call them flood lines. Some of the people who are business people, they've decided to be within just few meters, less than 10 meters within a dam. And when it starts to flow in terms of the river banks, they are going to be washed away. And then they will start to say it's a disaster. Our hydrologists and engineers, they've been working with those communities and municipalities for quite some time, and there are those who have been reluctant. But a number of communities, they've been very, very supportive, working with our alert systems and all the platforms the minister has made. But more importantly, the response by other people, that those who are evacuated, they are giving them shelter, they're giving them the necessary support. But going forward, we are going to be forced as a state to remove all of those that are illegally within the red zone, which is the flood line. Because if we don't do that, we will always be accused that we are being negligent. We'll be accused as if our professionals, they don't know how to manage the system. They are managing the system in the best way that we could be in a position to do.
And when you look, though, at the unpredictability of the weather patterns in recent times, I wonder what becomes then the measures that you're going to put in place now to ensure that, there could be, more rains, there could be more, water levels that continue to increase. Certainly, there needs to be proactive measures that could be put in place here.
There is something that we are discussing internally. On the basis of climate change, that we're a water scarce country, there's been too much runoff in terms of the rain within South Africa. One of the things we're discussing is to say, let's build more dams, let's catch this water so that during the times of need, when there's drought, the country will never run out of water. Therefore, the need of balancing dam not allowing this water to flow to the sea. It's the right way to do, even just to do artificial recharging of aquifers where we pump this water to underground. So at least for groundwater, we don't run out of water, is an important matter that we need to do. But from an early warning system, we are working with South African weather services and ourselves and our people. They need to start to plan now, Bong, for a short-term interval, because the frequency where you normally do weather prediction over a long period, now because of climate change, you will not be in a position to do a proper scenario planning. The changes are very quick. Sometimes if they say it's a 30% chance of rain, you end up having a flash floods when sometimes the percentage is very high. Therefore, the issues of using artificial intelligence, the technologies and geosensing is an important aspect. But as government, we need to do more around building resilient communities, how they actually plan to put their own settlements, their businesses, the kind of technology that we're going to be using in terms of infrastructure. So it cannot just be easily being washed away.
Yeah.
And then the last point, we must have the centers. When we evacuate our people, we know that there are safe zones that can be demarcated for any eventuality when we have the worst case scenario.
It's one thing that you and the Weather Service are working together to be able to, put some proactive measures in place. But one would then ask, are municipalities ready with plans around climate change, especially when we are seeing an increase in unpredictability as far as weather patterns are concerned?
The municipalities have different strengths, Bongi. Because some of them, they have weaknesses, they have no capacity to do this. But for a major infrastructure like the one we're managing of your Bloemhof, your Vaal Dam, and many other dams, including your Karib, is a national responsibility. Therefore, their responsibility is around community engagement, stakeholder civic education, issues of facilities where there's a disaster. But nationally, we manage that particular infrastructure. But it does not actually end with the Vaal Dam and the others. There are a number of municipal dams that municipalities, including agriculture and other private owners, they are owning their own dams. That's why Minister Majodina was very adamant to say, I want every dam to be registered, because every dam owner must take responsibility so that if there's a dam failure, therefore we'll know that they take responsibility. And on our side, our capacity just to monitor and regulate the dams using professional approved persons that have the capacity to check the structural integrity of every asset is an important issue that we are actually doing.
Yeah.
But as I can say, we can still be in a position to do more, because there are a number of these dams that are not reported like these big ones. And also our campaigns where people cooperated with the ministry. Remember, we're coming from the Easter holidays now, the Passover. We never had any incident where people were drowning because of the rituals that the churches are doing. And we continue to say that even if in certain catchment you have not received rain, don't take chances to go and play in water or just to cross those particular small bridges, because you don't know how the water is flowing from other catchment to the next one.
It's one thing, right, to say that municipalities have different areas, and I appreciate the fact that there is a competence of national government, but they are in the coalface of service delivery. They're the first responders. They're the first people that residents do see. And when it comes to this community engagements, for example, how proactive are many of them? And I ask this because you do have municipalities that are struggling with even ensuring that early warning systems, are in place and the alarm is sounded to the people timelessly, as we sometimes even hear in cases of disasters.
We need to indicate that they've continued to play an important role. We are correct, they are on the call phase, that they're closest to the people. That's why in terms of Disaster Management Act, there is always what we call it disaster management centers. There's local operation centers. We are working with them. They are not only themselves that though, they are working with national government. We're working with the police, the National Sea Rescue Institute, and we're working with the Department of Human Settlement and Culture. It's an all-government approach, and we're also working with civil society and organization. Therefore, that additional capacity does not only reside in them, it gets to be mobilized from time to time on the basis of evidence and data from our early warning system, because we planned for this particular season, Bongi, to say, we know the rain is going to start, then we started to be in a position to put the disaster preparedness plans and the ability to respond. At this stage, I will not be in a position to fault them, how they've responded within the collective.
Yeah, let's see then what happens in the coming days, as you say, that there may need to be some proactive measures that are put in place, especially given what you're discussing there, especially with the weather service and what we are seeing. But I appreciate your time this evening. That was the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, David Mahlobo.